You're watching Morning at NTV.
Good morning and welcome to Morning at NTV. My name is Idris Matusegawa, and if you have just joined us, there's so much to talk about. Make sure to go to our social media platforms. That is on Twitter, which is X now, or YouTube, and look out for NTV Uganda or myself, Idris Matusegawa. Now today, it's Friday, the 1st of December, and I have a very special topic that we are going to discuss. So it is stand-up comedy, which is arguably the oldest, most universal, basic, and deeply significant form of humorous expression, excluding perhaps truly spontaneous, informal social joking and teasing. It is the purest public comic communication, performing essentially the same social and cultural roles in practically every known society. With the comedy scene more popular than ever, there is an audience hungry to spend their time and money on high-quality stand-up. In an extended understanding effort on this subject, we have Kenneth Kimuli, aka Pablo, comedian, and Andrew Kaggwa, arts journalists of Daily Monitor. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy New Month.
Happy New Month. It's World AIDS Day. Have you tested?
Yes.
I know my status.
Andrew, you haven't tested. So I'll start with you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Stand-up comedy. When you hear the word, what does that mean to you in terms of the Ugandan scene?
In terms of the Ugandan scene, what does that mean? I think it's one of the most, most robust scenes of comedy in Uganda, stand-up. One, I could tell you that there is a hub that keeps breeding new comedians, like literally every month in Uganda. So it's a robust one. It's where we've gotten our celebrities much of our recognition. So it's a vibrant scene.
It's a vibrant scene.
Yeah.
And Pablo, Kenneth Kimuli, the government name. So many people, I think when I mentioned Kenneth Kimuli before I said Pablo, people will be like, who is that? Is Kenneth Mugabe?
Sometimes I also forget that Kenneth is my other name, honestly.
You also forget that the man exists, but he does. Pablo, thank you so much for coming through.
The pleasure is mine.
Stand-up comedy,
Yes.
how would you assess it in Uganda today?
In Uganda, I think I always tell other comedians that I think you need to buy shades because your future is bright. Reason being, in agreement with what Mr. Kaggwa has mentioned, that there's a new breed of comedians being churned out every day.
Yeah.
And there's a gentleman called Timothy Nyanzi who has been mentoring comedians for for the last maybe 10 years. Every Monday he has what they call content night, and it gives an opportunity to up-and-coming comedians to share their content, and then we rebuke it with love to make sure they separate the wheat from the chaff. And so I do believe that the mentorship is happening, and well, who knows? You never know. We could have the next biggest comedians from there.
True. And since it's the new month, December, which is a festive month, and we expect to see lots of concerts, gigs here and there. November has already been packed. When you look at the stand-up comedy scenes and the comics that we've seen do concerts, even you inclusive, what should we expect this month?
Well, it's a celebratory month, and people are in high gear to relax after 11 months of serious business. And so the onus is on the entertainers, especially the comedians, to reflect on what the year has been and then look for the lighter side of the serious issues and share them with the audience so that they can chew on it and laugh at it. And so this is a month where most companies, organizations have end-of-year parties, and to just look back and reflect on what the year has been. And so as comedians, it's an opportunity for us to go out and step in those spaces and, tell them everything about nothing, tell them the lighter side of it.
You mentioned something very vital when you say, when I go to a comedy show, I'm about to reflect on what the year has been, and which brings us to our topic today, how comedy is a tool for social mediation. And if you have something to contribute to this, please, again, I remind you, go to our social media platforms, that is on Twitter, which is X now, or Facebook. Look out for NTV Uganda. The hashtag is morning@NTV. Tell us, how has stand-up comedy in particular impacted your life? How has it helped you understand issues that go on in your society better? Bringing to Andrew Kaggwa. What is the purpose of stand-up comedy? What impact has it had? For so long we've had comedians like Pablo here for over 20 years. He has been in the game. What impact? Why do we even have stand-up comedians?
One, the purpose of stand-up comedy does not separate from the purpose of art generally.
Yes.
Because they are all art forms. One, they entertain us, they edutain us, and they critique situations. And by critiquing situations, you know, most of the times when you say critique, people think it's supposed to be political. But it's supposed to be the society. Now, when it comes to Uganda, unfortunately, art generally, not even just stand-up, is kind of tuned to censor itself. So they are topics people will not go to, and we are very, very caged society. And being a caged society and happening in a woke, this is what they call a woke generation, like in a woke generation. Now you're dealing with way too many things. Like you cannot make a joke about brown boys because someone will say there is an ism to eat, which you probably did not know about. You can't make a joke about short people, probably someone will catch feelings. So, so at the moment, there are a lot of stray bullets to dodge. But of course, even with all those, I still feel like much as we enjoy the comedy, there are many things they are not talking about. I think people are playing way too safe. I think even besides the politics, you're not talking about the societies we are in. So we have a good laugh, but when it comes to looking back and we're like, am I seeing my society through the jokes? I think I do not really see a lot of the society.
Pablo, do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, partly, in the sense that, you know, comedy is a funny way of being serious. And we have to look at the lighter side of the serious issues, such that when a person goes home, they sit back and say, okay, it was a joke, but there's food for thought, you know. And also talking about sometimes we are dodgy, you don't want to step on people's foot, you know, and so, for example, today is World AIDS Day. It's a very sensitive topic. Now, as a comedian, you want to talk about it. How do you approach such a topic? You know, it's health, you're going to say something, the ministry might say, no, that's against our policy, or you've used the wrong word, or so you have to think out of the box. Actually, you don't have to think out of the box. Just move the box and think. For example, if I'm talking about, let's say, AIDS today, I'll just look at the word AIDS and say, actually, AIDS is everywhere. It's acquired income deficiency syndrome. You know, look at it from, I'll say that the economy is tough. But I'm talking about, I've mentioned AIDS, but I'm talking about the economy and saying that maybe it's also affecting us. There could be a virus in our pockets that we don't have the money. And so I have to look for a tactical way of mentioning it without stigmatizing.
Stigmatizing people. And again, what Andrew said before is that for him, he doesn't feel like Ugandan comics do have an impact in society. But so many people believe that through comedy, there has been social change, that impact on social change. You've talked about AIDS. Today is World AIDS Day. And growing up, every single person knew that AIDS is something that needed to be fought against. So in terms of you as a comic, how do you then sit down, compile your jokes, compile your material to make sure that you are actually impacting social change, not only giving me entertainment, but you are educating me, and you're also looking out for the impact that your jokes, your material are going to have. How do you do that then?
That's a very good question. First of all, you have to research. You have to research and ask questions. Ask the technocrats, the people, so that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then also look at statistics, figures, ratios that talk about the subject, such that even as you're sharing, even if they make a reference, they said, this is quite interesting. I mean, there's already a statistic here: 70 teens catch HIV every day. Yeah, and then you start doing the math. Say if it's 70 per day, that is per week. How many are they per week? Then per month. That means that in a month you've created a district of HIV. You know, now that's the pun intended to it. I mean, you have a whole district. What are we going to do with it? Does it need another DC? So, you know, something like that. You're looking at ways where a person will laugh at it, but then they'll go back home and say, you know what, we have to find a solution to this problem. I mean, you talk about the traffic jam, for example, in Kampala. There's a lot of traffic jam. But what causes the traffic jam? You know, if you do you try to say, okay, let's first understand what causes the jam. One, it's the roads maybe are small, there are more vehicles on the road than the car. Then the potholes. So you start talking about, why don't we just have one smooth pothole, you know? Why just drive like you're driving in a valley? I mean, it's a joke, but you know, the message has been made that the roads need to be repaired. We're talking about Uganda being a friendly country where you can shop in traffic jam. You'll buy all foodstuffs, you can even buy car spare parts, and you know, they'll even fix it in the jam. You know, it's a joke, but it's talking about where we need to bring order.
To do something about it. Pablo, have you had an incident when you have had a show, made jokes, and then in the end, maybe someone has come back to you and said, you know what, you said this and this, it was funny in that time, but it really changed my life? Yeah, it has happened. There's a time I was talking about poverty some time back, and there were jokes about, I was talking about survival skills. Yes. You know, how do you survive a situation when you're broke? And this guy walks up to me and says, you know what? That was like a month after. He said, you know what, Pablo, this joke you told me, actually I went back and thought about my saving patterns. I was talking about saving. How do you save? How do you manage to you know, keep in sync with some money? And then I was talking about, then another lady was, I was talking about how we become what we were trained to be in childhood, or circumstances make us what we are. And I was talking about managers. If you look at most of the managers or politicians, most of them come from, I don't want to call them poor, let's call them humble, come from humble backgrounds, whereby their survival was ruthless. There was no ruth in it. and those skills have helped them to be where they are today. And the joke was about, I say that I come from a family of 22 minus dependents. This was just a joke. And I said, what are the chances that you'll eat? So mom would buy a kilo of meat. Now, no matter how many times you cut a kilo of meat, they want to go beyond 17 pieces. What are the chances that you'll eat the meat? So the only solution was to prepare katogo. And it's survival of the what? Of the fittest. So for survival, you have to make sure that you monitor and evaluate when they are cooking the katogo. Where did the majority of the pieces go? And then you put an X on the saucepan. That is, you see, you're creating an M&E specialist. Then I talk about the dynamics of katogo. When you're preparing it, you have to keep shaking it so that the heat balances. Now, chances are that some of the meat might move from one place to another. Do you open another branch or not? You know, you're starting to think. Then katogo is very interesting. When you're preparing katogo, it boils from down. The soup is down, and what remains on top is hard. And those days they would pour the food on a silver platter. So when they are pouring the food, you need some of that hard matoke or cassava. Put your hand. Yes, it will burn you. In every business there's risk. It will burn you, but get like 3 or 4 pieces, which you'll use to block soup from going to the neighbor. That's creating an engineer. So this person, when I told that story, he came and told me that, Pablo, you don't know what you've just said. That, you know, that is me. That most of the skills I'm using exactly based on. So Andrew, Pablo over there has literally given a perfect example of how comedy talks about society, it reflects what's going on, and actually impacting change. But you, prior, you said that you don't feel Ugandan comedy does anything for society and does not even reflect anything that's happening.
Actually, what I said,
yes,
much of what we have on the scene, we love to eat, we enjoy it, it's funny, but most of the times it's not talking about society, or it's not helping us think about the things that are actually going on, but it's very, very funny material.
So do you probably think that the quality of comedians that we have in Uganda today do not do enough research or are not aware of their target audience?
I think they do enough research. It's just that in Uganda you're technically walking on eggshells.
Yes.
When you're creative, the way you write, I mean, it's just even in the newsrooms. Like I keep telling people that the only free people we have at Daily Monitor could be Chris Ogon, because he can draw anything in a cartoon, and it seems okay. We share it on Twitter, and no one is saying a thing. Yet we write a lot of things, and we keep getting called out. Like at times we write the things he draws, and we keep getting called out.
Yes.
So when it comes to Uganda, it's not about people not being creative. It's about people at times giving themselves restrictions because they kind of feel like they're already there. For example, Mendo is a very good comedian, but I wouldn't blame him for not critiquing policy when he's doing Mr. M7. Like how?
and also, maybe if I'm to add to that, one of our greatest fear is censorship. You fear to be
censored
and persecution because you don't know, like.
Has it happened?
Well, I think I shared it some time back here.
Or it's that kind of untold, unsaid rule that exists.
A couple years ago, I did a joke about the First Lady, and for me it was really fun. I shared it here last time, and the people in the security were conscious about it. They felt that it was sensitive. So now, once you have that check, then you don't want to venture into that political space because you don't know
what will happen.
And then we don't also have protection with the copyright won't help you in any way. There's no say, but there's a freedom of speech, but an issue of freedom after speech. So we tend to trade on. It's called playing safe. You want to play safe, yet you'll see that there are important issues to address. And
on Twitter, sorry to cut you short, on Twitter a few weeks ago, we saw that international comedian Trevor Noah said he couldn't come to do a show in Uganda because he feared political persecution. And then also maybe 2 years ago on the Oscars, we saw someone being slapped, Chris Rock, by Will Smith for a joke. So how do you, as a comedian, as a comic, how do you then balance not offending people but also staying funny? Because again, I understand when you're making a joke, it has to be about people. So how do you balance that without necessarily having to walk on eggshells all the time?
Well, I think that's an occupational hazard, because you never know people's sentiments, feelings, temperaments. You don't know how they were raised. You don't know. So Andrew had mentioned that there are jokes that are, I could categorize them as stereotype, which are based on language, height, color, race. And those are jokes that happen, we live with them every day. But how do you then talk about it for it to have a safe landing? If you're going to talk about a tribe, then there are people of that tribe in the space who are very sensitive. You're not going to crack a joke about the king of Buganda, because they feel that you're now jeopardizing their culture.
And that's regardless of how safe the joke is.
No matter how safe the joke is, you've talked about you've talked about him. So my way is to make sure that if I'm cracking a joke about those spaces, I'm massaging their ego. It's to massage their ego, not to deplete it. If I'm going to talk about height, I want to celebrate their height,
Yeah.
whether short or tall. If I'm going to talk about the tribe, I want to celebrate it. I want, if this person hears me talking about their tribe, they say, yeah, they get excited. It's a joke, it's funny, but they are happy about
positivity.
Their positivity about the joke, not to you know, to deflate degrade them, you know. So that's the only trick to it, is to make sure that you're adding value to what you're going to talk about. If you're going to talk about color, if you're going to talk about a dark guy, make sure that the darkness bailed them out or did something. It is added, it is value addition to what they are seeking.
Pablo, you have always termed yourself as one comedian who's clean, keeps humor clean, keeps jokes clean. And I'll come to you, Andrew. Do you think that today in Uganda, so many comedians and comics tend to only fall into the profanity, obscenity, degrading as something funny?
I think there was a time, there was a time that happened.
Yeah.
But you see, at the moment, since, because I could authoritatively say that when we came out of COVID, comedy was doing way better than music. The only bone I pick with comedy is that even when it's doing better, we do not see a lot of independent shows, but it was doing way, way better.
Yeah.
And because it was doing better, people were investing money in it. MultiChoice came on board. These people were bringing good money, but they were really, really very, very strict when it comes to profanities, cussing language. Like, they were really strict. And I feel like that strictness of the people that brought money kind of shaped the industry we have right now, because today it's very easy to attend a show and no one is vulgar. Like, you go through a show of 3 hours and not a single person says something vulgar. Yeah, so a lot has changed today. A lot has changed. Of course, we still have a lot of some tribal jokes like that are performed in the older way, but a lot has changed. It's just that I feel sorry for the guys that at times the industry is too woke. There was a time I think I was there was a time I was at that new material night, and then I think someone said, someone was trying to tell someone like, oh, enjoy yourself, but you know how we say enjoy yourself, we like break a leg, and the person they were telling had like a
deformity,
disability, and like for me it was okay, like, yo, break a leg, and
it was funny, actually. It is funny.
And it was disabled.
How it lands is not usually the same when it comes to the person you're telling it to. So we are a very woke, sensitive society at the moment, and I do not know how good that is for comedy. I
Pablo,
feel like it's killing it.
Knowing who your target audience is quite important in any art form, in any business. And what Andrew is saying is that today people are too woke, people are too sensitive. And this hasn't been an argument that is only here, even internationally. We've had comics come out to say, my God, people are too sensitive nowadays. You can't make a joke. So how do you now sit down and say, okay, I've been in the game for 20 years. How do I reinvent myself? How do I keep relevant to today's society?
Well, when I was in high school many years ago, I read a book by...
Quite many.
Yeah, it was in the last century. I read a book by, I think it was Graham Greene. It was called Heart of the Matter. And he said that it's very impossible to arrange for everyone's happiness because you ironically end up jeopardizing your own. So as a comedian, I know I'm not going to please everyone. Actually, out there are people who don't even find me funny at all. So you don't want to pay attention to what is not meant, where you won't sell. So I'll need to know, who are my target audience? What does my target audience want? How then do I add value to my target audience? And then I'll bake my cake using those ingredients, which I'll know will suit their taste. So I always make sure that I look out for them. Now, then that goes also to the people who like obscenities, you know. You know, they say that people are obscene, but then you ask yourself, how come the shows are always full? It's because the people who are going to watch that, maybe the comedian is meeting their need. It's like their hidden pleasure, you know. It's something there. He's addressing a certain need that. So that begs the question of then who should feed the other? Is it the who decides what you listen to? Is it the comedian or the audience?
It the audience?
Yeah. And so you'll find that those who have invested in under the belt jokes have a certain following. Now, the only challenge I have with that is then as a comedian, because I'll speak on behalf of the comedians, is that then your brand is limited in growth. Because I'll come and watch you for my own satisfaction, but I won't recommend you. Simply put, it's like prostitution. You'll find prostitutes on the street every day, but you'll never see the clients, you know, or you'll never get a recommendation from a client saying that there's a new branch this place. So, so that's what that comedy is like. I'll come and watch it, but if there's an event, there's a corporate event, there's an end-of-year staff party, and they're looking for a comedian, I won't recommend you. Because the taste of the pudding is in the eating. I know. So as I always advise my comedian friends that, well, if you want to invest in that space, find a way of covering up, give it a coating
in a way.
That, you know, those days we used to take chloroquine. Chloroquine was bitter, bitter chloroquine. Yeah. But now they coated it, sugar-coated chloroquine. Yeah. So maybe that's the approach they should use.
So, in other words, one of the things you've mentioned is the question of who is it, the audience or the comedian who sets the jokes, and probably does that affect the amount of concerts or shows that we see from comedians? Because Andrew earlier said that there has been a few nowadays comics coming up to do maybe shows. So does that affect your ability to do shows in a year or even for a given period of time?
That's a very good question. Unlike music, the more you listen to a song, the more you like it, the more it grows onto you. You know, sometimes you even find yourself learning the lyrics unknowingly. Unlike comedy, a joke twice is never as funny. So once you have said it, it's done. So it takes more time for comedians to create new content, and then you also understand that we have a limited audience in terms of, unlike established countries like the US, I'll create one set for 1 year, and then I'll go around 50 states with the same set. But for example, I'll give an like Kampala. You'll find the shows at Comedy Store, then you have to go and perform at La Bonita, and then go to National Theatre. Then you might find that actually they are the same people.
That's what it is.
So it limits you have to be on your feet to be very creative, and it's very straining. For example, us in Uganda, that we are limited in the sense that you are the researcher, you are the writer, you are the executor, you are the marketeer, and you are the gate collector. So it becomes very strenuous on you as the individual. Yeah, so I think that's why we have
fewer concerts.
Yeah, but with music, I mean, you just have to sing the song, people like it, then you drop another one. The more they like it, the bigger the concerts. Okay,
so because we are running out of time, and this is such a huge topic to discuss, talking about concerts, Pablo, you have a concert coming up next week.
Actually, it's
congratulations.
Same to me. No, it's now 5 days to 7th December. Well, it looks like 7 days, but you don't count today and the D-Day. So it's 5 days to the show, and I'm super excited because we are planting three trees with one seed. It's celebrating 20 years of comedy. We started in 2003. Oh my goodness, wow, the years go by.
20 years.
Yes, and then I'll also be launching my maiden comic book titled Everything titled Everything About Nothing. 4 hour done by Dr. Patrick Vitature. And it's a collection of stories, independent stories. Some are fictitious with an element of truth in there. And they're about my escapades, I should say. And part of the proceeds, which will be coming from the concert and the book, will be going to support the Nganjani Foundation.
Okay.
That's helping teenagers who have dropped out of school, paying more attention to those who are HIV positive.
How can someone buy tickets?
You can buy them, you can go to Serena Hotel. We also have them at Frame Supermarkets, all Frame Supermarkets, and at Ndere Cultural Center. Those are the physical ones, but you can get them also on Airtel Money and MomoPay. Check out our Facebook page, our website, that is pabloug.com for more details. And yeah, come, let's have a great time. Tickets are available. You can at early bird is 50,000 ordinary and 100 for VIP, but at the gate the prices are going to double. There will be 100 for ordinary and 200 for VIP. So the earlier the better, and a table of 8 for 3 million shillings. The icing on the cake is that the chief guest is the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Taiwa, who will be coming to launch my book.
The book. Yes. So Andrew, you've been asking for a concert. There you go, and you know where to buy the tickets. And who is at home, who is watching, please go and attend Pablo, Kenneth Kimuli's show that is happening next week on the 7th here, right here at Serena Hotel. He has given you all the details, and you can go to his page, social media pages and website to find out more about it. Well, you have been an awesome, awesome, awesome audience. We shall see you next week. Goodbye.